Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this first remote CASL conversation. We hope that you and your families are safe and well, and that you've managed to find some peace this summer amidst all the chaos. Our program today is being recorded and will consist of a number of short presentations by the Dean's office. We'll begin with some general remarks by our Dean, Marty Hershock. Marty will be joined by Rita Gordon to share a brief snapshot of the college's finances and the challenges they pose for us. Gabriella Scarlatta will share some information about the fall calendar, policies that will be in place, and planning for the winter term. Morgan Yuncker will speak to retention efforts and current status of fall enrollments. At the conclusion of these presentations, we'll begin a Q&A period. Quite a few of you submitted questions as you registered for this event. These questions followed certain themes that we've consolidated into what we hope are representative questions. I have several of these prepared for Marty to start the Q&A off with. That said, I'll turn things over to Marty.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, CASL colleagues. Before we get started, I did want to thank my team, especially Sue Getter, for helping to coordinate and put this all together. And I ask your forbearance in case there are any faux pas or mistakes. This is our first time doing this, so I'm very excited to have an opportunity to reach out to you and to speak to all of you. So, as we get started, I wanted to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation to all of you for your hard work and commitment to the college and to our students. These are very strange times that we live in, and I am inspired by the persistence and fortitude that you have exhibited in the face of tremendous uncertainty and anxiety. I'm always proud to boast of your many achievements, your ingenuity and creativity, our students' enthusiasm for your classes, the service that you render to our faculty and to our students, and of your determination and unmitigated spirit. This college has faced a great many challenges over the course of its lifespan, especially in recent years, and in spite of everything we've faced, you've all remained undeterred and focused on the work at hand. Our students are incredibly lucky to have you working on their behalf. Thank you very much. Thank you too for allowing me to spend some time with you today to talk about the current state of affairs in our college. In my time as dean, I have, more often than I would like to recall, found myself having to share sobering news with you all. Today, I regret will offer more of the same. I won't pull any punches here. We are facing extremely difficult circumstances. The college and the university at large are grappling with the most difficult financial situation it has faced since the early 1980s, and perhaps ever. As the chancellor indicated in a recent budget town hall meeting, for a number of reasons, the campus is in the process of closing a $7.9 million budget shortfall. To fill this gap, the university's central administrative units were asked to trim 5.5% off of their base budgets, while the 4 academic colleges were asked to cut 5.2% from each of theirs. For CASL, this translates to a cut of just under $1.6 million from our current budget, which is a little bit under $30 million. It's imperative to note that this $1.6 million figure was predicated on the regents approving a tuition increase for the campus and a shift to the block tuition model. That is, the tuition increase only meant that we did not have to make additional immediate cuts. The reduction, the $1.6 million reduction, is on top of the 1% cut, roughly $300,000, that we made just a couple of months back. Unfortunately, we are not permitted to use available one-time monies to offset any of this. The cuts have been mandated to our base budget. To further contextualize the impact of this cut, approximately 93% of our budget, just under 28 million, is allocated to cover faculty and staff salaries and benefits. And much of the remainder is encumbered in the form of faculty startup funds and operational expenses like photocopiers, phones, supplies, and the like. In short, there is very little in the way of non-salary or benefits-related funding to cut in order to meet our target. This directive to cut the 1.6 million follows a series of years where the academic units have had to offset campus-level needs via budget cuts and or the surrender of carry-forward balances, all of which the College of Arts, Sciences, and Letters had accumulated through great effort on the part of all of you during a period of austerity brought about by declining enrollments and a budget model that rewarded growth and that never adequately funded the college's operations. As a result of these circumstances, the college has exhausted its available non-personnel related funds. I'm sorry to say, though it is imperative that I be as honest and transparent as possible, that we could not meet the 5.2% base budget cut without some reduction in personnel. This is not a situation that I relish, and I can assure you that much time and energy was expended exploring every possible alternative. While not intending to frighten you all further, it is important that I also tell you that things may get much worse in the near future. Indeed, much of our planning was predicated on the assumption that things will get worse. These potential future threats were laid out in the Chancellor's last town hall meeting. If fall enrollments are soft, if state appropriations are reduced beyond projected levels, should we not receive the remaining fiscal year 2020 appropriations payments owed to the university by the state of Michigan, or should we experience a second wave of COVID-19 with its attendant costs, additional future cuts will have to happen. We are plainly stated in a very dire situation. What of the CARES Act money or the $10 million promised UM-Dearborn by Ann Arbor, you might be asking? Well, certainly some of the CARES Act funding is making its way into the college to offset costs of the transition to remote learning. And we will be able to submit proposals to access the money being allocated by Ann Arbor. But those funds are tied exclusively to student success initiatives as deemed critical by the provost and the chancellor. In fact, senior officers and deans are meeting later today to discuss this funding. I'm sorry to be the bearer of such melancholy news, but you are owed a truthful assessment of our current circumstances. The college will, along with other parts of the campus, continue to work to mitigate any possible personnel cuts and to explore ways to preserve positions to the greatest degree possible. To facilitate this goal, I would welcome your thoughts, and I invite you to participate in a candid assessment of the college and its current scope. While we would all love to be a full-service, comprehensive, liberal arts college and to offer all of our traditional curriculum to our students, the reality is that this is not going to happen. Time has thus come for us to ask ourselves how we should position the college to best survive this crisis and to focus our efforts on those things that we offer where we have particular strengths or that are truly unique and around which we can build something new and more focused. We need to retrench and start to build a new core. This is vitally important work, and it can only be done working together. Now, I appreciate that these remarks will produce anxiety among many of you. I wish I could tell you all not to worry, that things will be okay, but to do so would not be honest. I do believe that the college will survive this crisis. We are far too important to the university, but in doing so, the college will have to change. This will necessitate that we all work together. The work will not be easy. It will force us to make some really tough decisions, and not everyone will be happy with the decisions made. There's no denying that the college will experience more pain. But this is work that must be done, and I know that we can collectively chart a promising future for the college. There is a real opportunity here to concentrate our energies and efforts. I promise to provide you with updates as new information becomes available and to continue to advocate on behalf of CASL and its needs. I'd now like to turn things over to Rita Gordon, who will briefly walk you through our budget in a bit more detail. So, Rita, and could you start the PowerPoint also?
Thanks, Marty. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us, and I hope you and your families are safe and well. I wanted to start by thanking the CASL staff who volunteered to take furloughs over the summer. This provided the college with the flexibility to manage anticipated expenses related to remote work and to fund some of the remote teaching costs not covered by the CARES and COVID funds. I also would like to thank the department chairs, directors, admins, and other staff who did an incredibly difficult task of making the 1% budget cut prior to the start of the current fiscal year, as well as Marty indicated the 5.2 base budget cut for the current fiscal year. We understand these decisions were painful, and we are working to restore some of the cuts with one-time funds. These cuts are reflected in the base budget slide. CASL's current budget for fiscal year 21 began July 1st and ends on June 30th of 2021. As you can see by the red line, the budget is slightly more than our base budget in fiscal year 14. During this time, costs have increased, including raises, promotions, contractual increases, new faculty hires, equipment costs, travel, and the replacement of computing devices for faculty, staff, as well as our labs. Next slide, please. This slide shows the budget allocations of the 4 academic units from 2011 to 2020. CASL and Chess have experienced similarly flat budgets, while the College of Business and Engineering has seen increases in their base budget. The academic unit allocation was fixed under the budget model, so increases in the 2 units were funded by proportionate decreases in the other 2 units, in CASL and Chess. Next slide, please. The CASL budget is comprised of 9 budget ledger categories, the largest being faculty salaries. This includes tenure track, LEOs of all classifications, and clinical faculty. The next largest category is fringe benefits. Fringe benefits represents approximately 30% of CASL salaries. The third largest category is staff, students, and temporary employees. Several departments had total student salaries of over $50,000. This includes lab assistants, tutors, student mentors, and office assistants. Next slide, please. For the period of fiscal year 13 to 20, overall CASL full-time equivalent positions decreased from fiscal year 13 to 17. All remained relatively constant between fiscal year 18 and 20, with the exception of LEO, intermittents, and adjuncts, which saw a slight increase. Next slide, please. The CASL carry forward budgets, the blue bars indicate the balance, and the green and red bars represent the change in these fiscal years. The carry forward budget consists of faculty startups, professional development funds, construction and renovation reserves, salary savings from faculty and administrative positions outside of the college, salary and benefits for unanticipated faculty and staff vacancies, and equipment and expense reserves. The investment of these funds for one-time purposes included the Faculty Incentive Research Fund, M-cubed funding matches, reestablishment of the foundation program, study abroad scholarships, retirement incentive payments, and the funding of CASL's share of university software purchases. In fiscal 16 and 17, the carry forward balance grew, although we did have to provide payments back to the university. We still had a net gain in those years. In fiscal year 18 and 19, as well as 20, the college has had to return funds to cover university budget shortfalls, and it has resulted in a decrease in our carry forward balance. The university has placed a hold on our fiscal 20 carry forward balance. Fiscal 20 ended on June 30th. We are working through these balances and will be providing a request to retain carry forwards and use unallocated carry forwards to assist with covering expenses that were not funded in the base budget. I thank you for your time. I look forward to your questions, and I'll now turn it back to Marty.
Thank you, Rita. Again, the Q&A section is also open, so if you do have questions, you can submit those as we go along as well. As you can see, I think the college has done a very good job of trying to generate funds that we could invest in strategic initiatives. And I think we made significant headway in those over the last 16 and 17 in particular. The last couple of years, of course, have been a very different story. So we're next going to hear from Gabriella, who's going to talk about the upcoming fall semester. One of the questions that was asked that I can sort of answer here in advance has to do with faculty and staff on campus. As you know, about 88% of what we're doing in the fall is going to be remote learning, or offered in a remote environment. The chancellor has been clear in indicating that anyone who can work at home should continue to do so. So there will be very minimal presence in the College of Arts, Sciences, and Letters. Most staff, almost all staff, will be remotely for the fall semester. And then, of course, that also goes for most faculty as well, with the exception of a small handful of folks who will be offering some laboratory courses and some courses in the jazz television studio and some language courses, and those folks who will be supporting those. So, Gabriella, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can talk a bit more about fall.
Thank you, Marty. And hold on, let me, thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank everybody for working hard all summer long, preparing for the fall semester. Summer is usually a time to unwind and recharge, spend time with your family, catch up with research. We realize that all of that might not be possible right now. So thanks again for your commitment to the quality of your courses and to our students. Before coming to campus, regardless of reason of duration of time on campus, please complete the online training on the website COVID-19. You will find a lot of very important information there. Your supervisor will also need to approve the visit, but all of that will be explained on the website. The fall calendar, I'm sure you've seen the chancellor's email has changed somewhat. The classes will begin as planned on September 1st, but there will not be a fall break. The last day on campus will be November 21st. All classes will be held remotely for the last 2 weeks of the fall semester, that is after Thanksgiving. All final exams will be conducted virtually December 19 to 19. I'm sorry, December 16 to 19. We should receive an email shortly from the registrar's office and the provost office with details about the scheduling of the final exams. Next slide, please. Fall teaching modalities. There has been a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of reshuffling, a lot of changes going into for the fall semester, just because, as you know, we have had to change course of action. So please know that the schedule was designed with health concerns in mind for most health concerns, and making sure that every day the density on campus is relatively low. Therefore, 5 bands were designed. The first one, in which courses that fit in this band will meet on campus, including labs, senior design sections, and other similar courses that require in-person teaching. The second group of courses, the second band, is for courses that will be taught as a remote and campus hybrid, based on strong curricular needs or known student preference. For example, cell labs will fit in this band. So these courses will meet 1 day on campus and 1 day online. The third band includes courses that will be taught as fully remote hybrids, that is, with both synchronous and asynchronous online components. The synchronous days online will require days and the date and the times for the meeting. So the students know that for that day and that time, they need to be in front of their computer, fully engaged with their professor and classmates. The fourth band is for courses that can be offered online. That is, all of the courses that have that were scheduled to be taught online for the fall, but also that have gone through the regular curriculum approval to be taught online. While the fifth band, these are courses that will be taught online, of course, but that will revert back to their face-to-face modality once the fall semester is over, once the crisis is over. So courses that were not really approved to be taught online. So this gives you a snapshot of the various courses of the various types of courses and modality for the fall. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, but also email your chair who has more details about your course. Third slide, please. As Marty mentioned, we have newly implemented fall policies for fall enrollments. And Marty just mentioned it, but also there was an email that he sent a couple of weeks ago with the whole picture. In order to better enable the college to meet student demand without scheduling additional courses, all courses that have been approved as online offerings will have their caps set to a number that represents the median between the courses in-person cap and the online cap. I know that some of you have added students to your summer courses. Thank you very much for doing that. We might need to do the same for fall courses until the fall schedule goes live and we see how students react to it. We still don't know how students will react to our newly designed fall schedule. So for right now, we ask that you are patient and see what kind of enrollments we will see once the schedule is fully online. I hope that we will have a better picture by mid-August. The number of standalone sections of remotely offered multi-session courses that have historically fallen below a 60% fill rate will be cut to approximate an overall average of roughly 100%. The goal here is not to add new multi-section courses so that we can, again, see where enrollments fall. The good thing here is obviously that students, a lot of these multi-section courses will be offered online. So there's not going to be the problem of students having to take that course at a specific time and day. So we will see what happens then. We will need to adhere to a 15 for upper level and 20 for lower level student floor to determine a course's viability. Exception, of course, will be made for courses, for example, needed to ensure timely progress to degree for majors, including some capstones. We are now starting to look at the winter schedule. The Provost Office has sent out an invitation for your feedback on issues related to winter. Please share your thoughts with her so that all of your voices can be heard and that we can have a better picture of the winter schedule. And now I want to thank you for your attention, and I'm going to let our colleague Morgan Yuncker share some enrollment news with us.
Thanks so much. Thank you all for joining us today and allowing me to give a little bit of background about our fall enrollments and what the future will look like in terms of recruitment and retention, especially in these times of COVID-19. Before I do get started, I want to provide a little bit of background. Our enrollment management and senior leadership teams at the campus level are working very hard to identify and implement strategies and campaigns that will help with our fall enrollments and for future enrollments. They've been working with our advising teams, with myself and many others over the spring and the summer to really try to get our enrollment numbers up and hopefully reach out to many students in light of what is going on. I am currently working with data from weekly enrollment management reports. This is a really helpful tool, but the data is not a perfect system by any means. So with that being said, we probably are not going to have definitive numbers until closer to the start of the semester. So just bear that in mind as I kind of go through some of these numbers with you. And then finally, I'd like to clarify a couple of terms that you're probably hearing a lot when it comes to enrollment numbers. I think there's been confusion or perhaps questions regarding deposits versus enrollments. A deposit is a student who has paid a deposit to the university with the intentions of coming to the university, where enrolled students are those who have already attended an orientation or registered for a class. And though these students are highly likely to enroll, they're not a guarantee, and that's why we always consider summer melt in our projections. So if you can just keep that in the back of your mind as well. So with all of that being said, this is a little bit of a snapshot of what our enrollments are looking like for the fall semester. These numbers were pulled on July 6th, and they are CASL specific. So our deposits for the fall are actually at 390, which is up 90 deposits from last year. However, our enrollments are only at 184, and those are down about 75 from last year. So we are looking a little bit down in comparison to last year, but again, there are things in place to hopefully combat that. Orientations are being scheduled through the end of August, so there is time for us to enroll and get these students orientated and registered for courses, especially those who have deposited. But with the increased cases in Michigan and the uncertainty of what the state will look like in a month, students and families might change their mind of where they initially planned on going, or it might force them to make a last-minute decision. For transfer student enrollments, the university is way down for our transfer students, especially when we're looking at 2 years ago, where our numbers were doubled what they are now. However, CASL is looking at about even from last year. So as far as deposits go, we have 87 students that have deposited, which is 10 more than we had last year. And we have 85 students enrolled, which is 4 more than we had last year. Again, these are not guaranteed numbers, but these are where our projections are looking. There's still a lot of room for improvement with transfer students. There's lots of things happening at the state, university, and CASL level to help with these numbers. The state has launched Michigan Pathways to allow for easier course transfers for certain programs. At the university level, we have identified many barriers that transfer students are facing and looking at ways we can address them. Campus leadership is also meeting with Henry Ford to develop a stronger relationship and hopefully reestablish the pipeline that once existed. And at the unit level, we are looking at creating many articulation agreements with local community colleges to hopefully get some more students from those institutions from certain programs into ours. As far as graduate enrollment, we are actually doing pretty well this year. We have about 10 more enrolled students than we did last year, which is pretty significant for our smaller programs. We weren't hit as hard by the international population setbacks as some of the units at the university because most of our students are local. But we are looking at new ways to recruit students, especially now that a lot of companies have withdrawn their scholarships to pay for employee education. we're looking at other ways that we can maybe help recruit students and help them be successful here, especially in light of not having that funding they once had. We're working closely with grad studies and obviously the program directors to do email campaigns, marketing strategies, virtual events, and then other ideas to help with those enrollments. Moving to retention, our retention rates are down from the winter semester of about 400 students. That's not counting the 250 students we had graduate in the spring. I'm sure that COVID has some impact on this, but unfortunately we can't blame these retention rates solely on that, as we typically lose about 300 to 350 students semester to semester in CASL. In the spring semester, we launched 2 different retentions that are working really hard to identify issues and find solutions for retention. One group is comprised of faculty, advising, and learning center directors, and we're looking at ways that we can help students be successful academically, and then how we can help them. The other is comprised of campus leaders from admissions, orientation, financial aid, and many others, looking at a student's journey and how the process from start as a new student or a transfer student to finishing as a graduate looks like, and how we might be putting up barriers that we're not aware of, and how we can identify those and then fix those. Unfortunately, with COVID happening, many of the ideas and strategies that we had come up with are not necessarily going to fit into this new realm of being remote. So we are looking at other ways that we can work with students to help them be successful kind of in the immediate. So this fall and likely winter will be extra focused on student success and how we can help them with their learning experience. I'll be reaching out to all of our faculty, working with learning centers, advising the library, campus leadership, and many others, so that we can help make our students' experiences the best one possible in light of the circumstances. Finally, I just want to tell you about a few events that are happening. On Thursday evening, we are hosting the very first transfer admitted student reception for all of our transfer students who have been admitted. It's really just a way for them to come in, meet their peers, to meet faculty, to meet advising teams, hear from current students, so that they can feel somewhat ready to start the semester in the fall. Admissions is also hosting their summer open house for prospective students on July 31st. This also will be remote, and CASL will be doing 2 presentations to kind of give an overview on what that looks like. Moving into the fall, there will be a lot more virtual events. All of our events will be virtual, obviously, but they'll be more focused either at the department level, at the program level, but certainly at the college level, in partnership with admissions, because we want to make sure that we are hitting home what we're trying to do, instead of it being very broad like they have been in the past. So I urge all of you to reach out to me if you have any ideas or just want to have a conversation around student success, retention, or recruitment. Thank you all so much, and I really look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you, Morgan. We'll now begin the Q&A portion of our conversation. As I indicated previously, I have several questions already prepared for Marty. If you have additional questions, please type them into the Q&A option in Zoom there at the bottom of your screen. I will do my best to capture the sentiment of these as they come in and pose them to Marty and his team. As a final reminder, this conversation is being recorded and will be shared with all CASL faculty and staff. The questions that are submitted will also be answered and published so that you can see what your colleagues asked about. So Marty, the first question I have for you, there were quite a few questions and concerns expressed about communication during this crisis. Can you share your thoughts on communicating to different audiences, paying particular attention to the differences between the college and the campus, students and faculty staff, and Leo versus tenure track faculty?
Oh, so that, yes, thank you for that question. I clearly recognize that there's a thirst for information out there and desire to know what is going on. And in fact, I'm very eager to share information as it comes to hand. The flurry of communication that was characteristic of the early days of the pandemic has certainly slowed. And I would say that, at the moment, there's definitely an effort on the part of the campus not to inundate folks with too much information and to try really hard to include all of the information needed in a single message before communicating with folks. Communication at the moment is really being coordinated centrally, and the timing and release of information is also being sort of closely monitored and guarded. Thus the reason why we had to cancel the first scheduled town hall meeting. There was some concern on the part of the administration about going forward with that in advance of the regents making a decision about finances in the budget. So I've been trying to share what I possibly can share with folks. The primary conduit that I rely on for sharing information is the Department of Chairs. And when it was meeting CASL exec, but primarily the CASL department chairs at this point in time. We have lots of conversations. They are in the loop about a lot of information, some of which they can share, and some of which they cannot. When I do communicate with faculty, I always use the all faculty email list, which includes all of our tenure track and Leo faculty members. Everyone's involved, included in that. I want everyone to have as much information as they possibly can. In terms of communicating with students, that is being very much coordinated and run out of the enrollment management office. Again, the idea is not to inundate students with too much information. Having said that, the CASL team, Sue Gettert, Leah Lodgeway, and Morgan have worked on messaging between the college and alumni and our current students. In fact, I know a number of faculty also participated in recording messages for those constituencies. So we are very much trying to reach out to our students. I'm not at liberty, though, to be able to allow individual programs or departments to communicate with students. As I said, that access is being held very closely. And on the staff front, both Rita Gordon and myself have been in frequent communication with the staff, sharing, again, as much information as we possibly can. Rita meets weekly with the administrative specialists. And again, that's a good conduit for information from the college down to the staff as well. And I guess what I would say is there's certainly room for improvement. I recognize that everyone wants to know information as soon as possible, but it is not always it's not always within my authority to share that information. I try to get it out as quickly as I can, but it's not always as rapid as people might like it to be. So I think, Mike, that probably addresses most of that.
It does, thank you. Many faculty and staff are concerned about delivering a high quality education to our students this fall, while simultaneously worrying about childcare. Do you have any suggestions, plans, or guidance for faculty and staff with small children or other dependent care responsibilities this fall?
So I can say that this is a topic that is a high priority for the campus. It's under conversation regularly at both council of deans and senior officers and deans. There are, of course, members of senior officers and deans group that are in a similar situation, that have small children that they're also caring for and or who are trying to determine what to do relative to their schooling. What the college can't do a whole lot on its own. We certainly have and will continue to encourage chairs and supervisors to be as flexible as possible in recognizing and accommodating folks who are facing these demands on their time. The provost is looking, and the deans are working with her, at creating some swing spaces on campus for faculty usage. Unfortunately, faculty will not be allowed to have access to their faculty offices in fall. But the provost and I recognize that trying to work at home is not feasible for some faculty who have childcare responsibilities and staff as well. So we're trying to create some swing spaces that faculty can use and access on a regular basis. I've also brought up the possibility of creating similar swing space, or at least providing access to staff who may be faced with similar concerns. And then while it's less than ideal, the university's efforts to expand wireless into the parking lots is also, at least one faculty member that I know of has used that as a place to work in quiet as well. So that remains a bit of an option. And then the winter term survey that recently went out from the provost's office, and Gabriella alluded to this as well. One of the things that was asked was about faculty's willingness to move some of their teaching load from the winter semester into the summer semester. Part of the reason that this was asked was for the reasons that I'm talking about here, and that is a recognition that, if K through 12 schools, daycare and the like is not available in the winter, it very well may be the case that some faculty would be willing to teach in the summer rather than teaching courses in the winter, which would then free them up to pay more attention to the educational needs of their children and their life. And then I would say that you can also contact HR if you've got particularly vexing issues that need to be worked on. There's always family leave and the like that we can look to address some of these issues.
Thank you, Marty. A number of people have asked about the one-time $10 million contribution from the Ann Arbor campus that was seemed to be pivotal when the regents approved the budget a couple weeks ago. Can you comment about how that will be invested?
I don't have a lot of information on that. As I said, senior officers and deans are meeting this afternoon for some conversation around that. My understanding is that the chancellor intends to create a request for proposal process, an RFP process that will enable faculty, staff, colleges, different units put forward ideas about how to allocate this money. It is, of course, earmarked for student success. At the moment, my sense is that is really focused on things along the lines of advising, supplemental instruction, and things of that nature. I probably will know a bit more this afternoon, but for now, I cannot say. What I can say is there's no piece of that that's being earmarked directly to the colleges. So that's off the table.
Should there be a positive COVID-19 test from a student or faculty member involved with an in-person instructional activity on campus, can you discuss the policies that will be in place on who will communicate this information to other students and faculty, who will be doing the contact tracing for the campus, that sort of thing?
So that all falls under the purview of the EOC, the Emergency Operations Committee or Council. Laura Drabchek is the primary campus point of contact for that. I do not have a definitive understanding of exactly how that process will work. I do know that the university has certainly has done some work on training contact tracers, but I can't say how that information will be shared or what information will be shared, other than to say that obviously if you are someone that has been exposed to that individual, you would be contacted by the county as well, because that's also sort of one of the primary points of information about those particular situations.
This may be a crystal ball question, but some public health experts say the pandemic will last for 2 years. Do you feel we should anticipate continuing with remote learning for the foreseeable future?
This answer is pretty simple. I would say yes, particularly given what I've heard the chancellor say, his approach to the pandemic and to campus planning has been very conservative. So
You seem to be breaking up on us, Marty.
Like maybe if you could ask someone else a question, that'll give Marty a chance. There he goes, he's back.
I'm back, sorry.
That's okay. So we have a budget question that Rita, perhaps you could shed some insight on. The official approved budget for CASL shows a 4.6% cut compared with the previous fiscal year. What's the difference, or can you explain the difference in what's going to happen between the 4.6% cut and the mandated 5.2% cut?
Sure, that's a great question. The financial information is always changing right at the end of the fiscal year and start of the next fiscal year. We were required to make the 5.2% budget cut. We do have the 1% cut in reserve. So that is part of the larger picture. They may have offset that 1% when they reflected the overall cut, because it is sitting in CASL's budget, but it's restricted. Also, we received a little bit of money at the end of the fiscal year to cover promotions for LEOs and faculty, as well as LEO collective bargaining agreement funds. and there are some additional funds that came to CASL to cover partial administrator, former administrator salaries of faculty now in the college. So basically every day I run a new financial report and see what's changed, trying to reconcile it. So it will be probably another week before all of the numbers settle out for the fiscal year end, but I understand the budget number approved by the university is different, and so we just need to dive into those details a little further.
Thank you, Rita. This is a question for Marty. Marty, is CASL going to merge with Chess?
So well, what I can say is that at the campus level, as I understand it, anything and everything is on the table for conversation. So certainly the College of Education, Health and Human Services is a very small academic unit. It is smaller, in fact, than some of our departments. There's a great deal of collaboration and synergy between CASL and Chess, both in the Health and Human Services area, but also on the education front. So that is a conversation that has, it's never really gone away, even when the new college was created. So what I can say is that it has definitely been sort of mentioned as something that should be explored during this moment of financial pressure.
This next question is perhaps for you, Marty and Rita. Can you please talk about what cuts have already been made and what are planned?
Yes, so I will defer to Rita, but I'll start it off. And one of the things that we did in preparing the budget and in looking to implement cuts was to run an exercise where we stripped everything out of the CASL budget, save faculty and staff salaries and benefits. So we cut PDF for this year. There is no new PDF. The existing balances are still there. It's frozen, and we intend to restore those. They hopefully won't be going anywhere, but there's no new PDF, for instance. We cut things like photocopying and student labor. Some departments even cut phone lines as a way of meeting our target. Rita, you had a list of things as well.
I did, and following Marty, we tried to avoid any cuts to faculty and staff wherever we could. And so in addition to the things Marty mentioned, we cut construction projects, equipment purchases, contingencies, so department contingencies, as well as the dean and associate dean contingencies, hosting. I think we talked about photocopying. There were quite a few small things in the units that we ended up cutting just in order to try and make those cuts without impacting people. And the cuts unfortunately left us about $600,000 short that we had to dig deeper into the cuts to make. And as Marty said, we're looking to restore whatever we can with carry forward, but we have not heard whether or not we get to keep our carry forward or to what extent we get to keep those funds.
Thank you, Rita. This is probably to everyone. Has there been a discussion of reducing the number of programs the college offers or integrating programs to reduce costs?
So I'll start, and one of the things that we should probably, everyone should be aware of is that we received, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks ago from Institutional Research, some data that had been requested by the Chancellor that provided an analysis of course fill rates and teaching loads by individual faculty across the university. So I would take that as a sign that things like the numbers of students in individual classes and programs are on some people's radar, and that we probably need to be proactive rather than reactive. We have some areas where we offer courses, but we do not offer degrees in those areas. And I think it probably would behoove us to ask the question about whether or not that is the best use of the limited resources we do have, and that perhaps maybe we reallocate some of those resources to areas where we've got either more robust student demand or where there's possibility of creating something new and innovative.
When will people find out whether they are affected by personnel cuts?
So the I would say the staff who are have been impacted have largely been contacted and spoken to. The Leo folks whose courses may have been canceled we've asked that they be notified as soon as it was known that those courses either needed to be trimmed, or because of the new course caps where it looks like they will not run, or perhaps they're being bumped by a tenure track faculty member whose courses may not be running. I saw the question about course, the 15-20 course caps for classes that have smaller caps. And what I would say there is we're sort of using a proportional approach to those courses rather than necessarily holding always at 15 and 20. If the course cap is smaller, we will definitely look at that in terms of its proportionality, and also in terms of whether or not a course is necessary to help students to finish up their degree program in a timely manner. We don't want to impede students who need to take a particular course in order to graduate and cancel that. So I would say that it's probably would be a good use of CASL's collective time to take a look at what we do and to make sure that everything that we do is being done efficiently, effectively, and if there aren't opportunities for thinking about combining some things.
Marty, I just wanted to add a little more context to the original question. Staff notifications for changes in employment status have been made. They are ongoing. We are working with human resources in the event someone's position is changed substantially to find them work, as well as if their position would change to have a lowered appointment, to help them find ways to supplement that employment so we can get them as close to full-time as possible with other work, either in the college or perhaps across the campus. So those notifications are ongoing, and the one thing I receive a lot is questions about who specifically is impacted. those are confidential matters, and so we do want to be mindful that these are our colleagues and people that we care about, and so we want to be sensitive that this is difficult decisions, difficult news for them, and just be supportive of those folks that have been impacted.
Okay, we are at the 11 o'clock hour, so it's time for this formal program to end. We will be providing a copy of this recording, so anyone who missed it, you can share it with your colleagues. We will be taking all the questions that were posted during this session and that were submitted earlier, and we will publish those as well as answers to those as best we can. And those too will be made available to you soon. Marty, do you have any last minute words?
I just want to, again, thank everyone for all of their hard work and effort and for taking the time to come today and for the good questions and conversation. I look forward to more of that, and we will definitely try to schedule another of these meetings relatively soon. With that, I'll say thank you and wish you all a good day and enjoy the rest of your summer.